Hey and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's begin with our daily news. Deal agreed for a breathtaking Arsenal player to leave on loan. Arsenal have now agreed a deal to loan a 20-year-old winger Marquinhos to Nantes in Ligue 1 next season. That's according to L'Equipe in France, who say that an agreement in principle has been reached between the two sides. Marquinhos arrived at Arsenal last summer and spent the latter half of the season on loan at Norwich City in the Championship. The Brazilian played 11 times in the Championship for the club, registering just one goal and one assist. And on the whole, Marquinhos did slightly underwhelm during his time with Norwich. The Championship is, of course, a tough introduction to English football, but with the promise Marquinhos showed at times for Arsenal, he will have been hoping for a bigger impact. The 20-year-old impressed in his Europa League chances and was deemed ready to leave the club and gain experience. However, since his underwhelming loan away, the winger has struggled to make any kind of impression in his limited chances during pre-season. Marquinhos will surely be hoping for better chances and performances during his proposed loan to Nantes next season. Whether or not Marquinhos has the ability to be a long-term success at Arsenal remains to be seen. You would expect any loan spell in Ligue 1 will go a long way to deciding that. Nonetheless, the Brazilian does look like another piece of impressive talent identification by Arsenal's scouting department. The club have clearly been keen to recruit directly from Brazil in recent years, and Gabriel Martinelli is now the glowing example of that. Of course, not every player can reach the success of Martinelli, but Arsenal will hope their new strategy will continue to pay. And should the breathtaking Marquinhos impress during his loan at Nantes this season, then Arsenal could make a considerable profit on any future sale. Marquinhos looks to be at a crossroads in his Arsenal career. And his performances during this loan move could be decisive. David Ornstein says everyone is now expecting 22-year-old to leave Arsenal this summer. Journalist David Ornstein has said that everyone is now expecting Folarin Balogun to leave Arsenal this summer. Speaking on the HaytersTV YouTube channel, Ornstein provided more information on the 22-year-old's future. The centre-forward position could end up being a source of debate at the Emirates in the final weeks of the transfer window. Mikel Arteta appeared to have several options at his disposal going into the Premier League campaign. However, an injury to Gabriel Jesus that required surgery days before the Community Shield has raised some questions. Edin Ketaya started and captained their Emirates Cup match against Monaco on Wednesday, but only featured for the final few minutes against Manchester City. That's because the new signing Kai Havertz was given the nod, although he never thrived in that role at Chelsea. David Ornstein now believes that Arsenal's other senior option, Folarin Balogun, is expected to leave this summer. The 22-year-old has been linked with several clubs this summer, but a move isn't currently imminent. After spending pre-season with the first-team squad, both parties don't appear to have done enough to convince the other that they should carry on together. Speaking about the American international's future, Ornstein said, Arsenal, to our knowledge, are not in the market for a striker. They have Gabriel Jesus, Edin Ketaya, Balogun. The expectation is that he will leave, but it's not done yet. They have auxiliary options like Leandro Trossard and Kai Havertz. Havertz proved why Arsenal have signed him, but also why he hasn't been signed as a striker. His link-up play was great around the box, and he regularly got his teammates involved in attacks. However, he also had the best two chances of the first half and failed to convert either. Both Balogun and Nketiah would have expected to score those opportunities. Jorginho makes decision about Arsenal future amid Fenerbahce links. Jorginho has decided that he wants to stay at Arsenal and fight for his place despite interest from Fenerbahce in the summer transfer window. That's according to a report from The Telegraph, which notes that the Italy international has no plans to leave the Emirates in the final weeks before the deadline. Jorginho proved to be a decent signing for the Gunners at the end of the most recent January window. Like the move for Kai Havertz, Arsenal caught many off guard by targeting the 31-year-old, but the midfielder went on to make a really impressive contribution. Nevertheless, it appeared that there was a chance that his stay at the Emirates could prove to be brief. Reports from TRT Sport in Turkey last week claimed that Jorginho has asked to leave. Fenerbahce are keen to bring the former Napoli man in this window, but it would appear that that may not be the case. The Telegraph is now reporting that Jorginho is not planning to leave and wants to fight for his place at the Emirates during the coming season. It looks unlikely that Jorginho is going to play regularly for Arsenal this term. The Gunners have signed Declan Rice and kept Thomas Partey so far, but he is likely to have a role to play. Arsenal will want to be battling for the Premier League title, but they are also going to make their return to the Champions League. Jorginho, like Havertz, has won Europe's biggest prize, so that experience is going to be important, even if he is going to be a squad player. Arteta said that he was tremendous after arriving, so he will be pleased that Jorginho has no intention of leaving in this window. Pundit says Arsenal have made a big mistake signing 24-year-old this summer. Arsenal have been told they have made a mistake by signing Kai Havertz from Chelsea. Robbie Musto and Robbie Earle were speaking about the upcoming Premier League season on the Two Robbies podcast. The beginning of the top flight league campaign is just a few days away now. The challenge for every side is to somehow topple Manchester City at the top of the table. Mikel Arteta may think he has an early psychological advantage over last season's title winners after Sunday's Community Shield final. It took a very late Leandro Trossard effort to take the match to penalties, but Arsenal's players delivered from the spot. Arteta was forced to find a solution up front after Gabriel Jesus picked up an injury and selected Kai Havertz in his place. The German international did well in spells but couldn't convert to golden opportunities. Arsenal have now been told they have made a mistake by signing Havertz this summer. Robbie Musto insisted he would have spent the money on a different type of player. Speaking about the 24-year-old, he said, Kai Havertz from Chelsea going to Arsenal is the one of his three big signings where I'm like, what can Mikel do differently? Obviously, Arteta feels that he can play him in a different spot or get something that takes the potential and the raw talent that he is obviously got Kai Havertz into the production of assist and possession and goals and the creativity. I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have done it. I would not have spent the amount of money on a player that I know it's different, and Arsenal's different to Chelsea, but I would not have done that. I would have found another avenue to go down to. Arsenal signed Havertz for £65 million this summer, with Arteta expected to play him in a deeper role. Darren Bent issues verdict on Declan Rice after Arsenal win Community Shield. Darren Bent has backed Declan Rice to get better and better for Arsenal after the midfielder made his competitive debut for Mikel Arteta's side in the Community Shield on Sunday. Bent was speaking to Talk Sport after the Gunners clinched the first piece of silverware of the campaign, beating Manchester City on penalties at Wembley. Declan Rice was Arsenal's marquee addition this summer, so plenty of eyes would have been on his performance against Pep Guardiola's side as Arsenal looked to lay down a marker. It proved to be a successful start to life at Arsenal for Rice. The Gunners clinched the trophy after a penalty shootout, and for much of the game, they managed to go toe-to-toe with the citizens. Rice perhaps did not stand out with a game-changing display, but he also did very little wrong, and Darren Bent suggested that he is confident that the 24-year-old is going to be a big player for Arsenal. He said, played well, grew into the game. We saw from a defensive standpoint the way he can get back into that wing-back position, that turn of pace, and as he progresses and plays in Arteta's system more and more, he will get better and better. Like so many of the Arsenal squad, Rice offers real versatility. Arteta has built a group which has the potential to cause real surprises, and the England international is someone who can play in a number of roles. He started at West Ham as a centre-back, and while he does not play there anymore, That history does highlight his ability to move around the field with relative ease. He can play the anchoring role in the midfield, but he can also be a number 8, tasked with making more of an impact in the final third. Rice should be hitting his peak in the next few years, so the coming seasons could be pivotal in deciding just what level he could go on to reach in the future. For that reason, it will be fascinating to see how Arteta predominantly uses him this season. Pundit says 22-year-old will become a sensational player for Arsenal this season. Kevin Campbell has raved about Arsenal and new boy Jurriën Timber ahead of the start of the new Premier League season. The Gunners have made 3 excellent signings in this window already. Timber, of course, is one of them, and joining him at Arsenal are Kai Havertz and Declan Rice. The excitement around Rice and the intrigue about Havertz has probably overshadowed Timber a little bit. Campbell, however, thinks he is an absolute star. Here is what he said on the Hyper Squad. Arsenal signed Jurriën Timber from Ajax for £34 million last month. The Dutchman is a hugely versatile player. He can play anywhere across the back four and also in midfield if required, and he seems to have won over Gunners supporters already. After a very impressive preseason, Timber started for Arsenal in the Community Shield against Manchester City on Sunday, and he was absolutely brilliant. Campbell watched him play and was blown away. When asked if Timber deserves to start now, Campbell said, "I just think he's got some qualities that Zinchenko and Tierney don't have, so I think he has played his way into the first 11. And you know what? There is going to be times where he doesn't play. There is going to be times where he probably relieves Ben White, or there is time where he is sitting on the bench. But I think we have signed an absolute star in Timber, honestly. I think he is going to be a sensational player. Timber really does look at home at Arsenal, doesn't he?" Both Declan Rice and Kai Havertz are the ones with the Premier League experience, but the Dutchman has arguably settled in better than both of them combined. Timber's performance against Manchester City really was brilliant. He barely put a foot wrong at the back, was very composed on the ball, and got forward brilliantly. He really does look like a brilliant player, and the fact that he is still only 22 means he will only get better in the coming years under Mikel Arteta. Fabrizio Romano says Arsenal are negotiating deal to sign £40 million player right now. Arsenal have been amongst the busiest teams in Europe in the transfer market this summer. The Gunners have signed 3 big-name players for around £200 million, and somehow they are not done yet. Indeed, David Raya is also on Arsenal's radar, and according to Fabrizio Romano, speaking on the debrief, the Gunners are currently locked in discussions with Brentford about getting a deal done for the Spaniard, claiming that we could see some concrete movement on the deal getting done this week. Romano shared what he knows about the £40 million goalkeeper. He said, "The negotiations with Brentford was very complicated. Now Arsenal are in direct contact with Brentford. There is a discussion going on even today while I'm speaking. They are discussing the terms of the deal. Arsenal made a bid last week of £20 million plus add-ons, and it's a very concrete possibility to see the deal done this week. Arsenal have gotten the vast majority of their transfer business done this summer before a ball has been kicked, and if they get Raya in before the start of the season, they will have all of their ducks in a row before the season begins. Of course, the Gunners probably still need to shift a few players, and they could also perhaps do with a new striker coming in, but unlike many of their rivals, Arsenal will have the bulk of their business done by the start of the season. It's way too early to say it, but the early signals do suggest that Arsenal may well have won the transfer window, and Raya's arrival would just be the icing on the cake. I will be uploading daily Arsenal news, so keep your eyes on the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Peace out.